Let's maybe get started. Um, my name is Shilpa. I'm a product leader at a company called Apptio, which was acquired by IBM in 2023. I at Apptio, I'm a principal product manager, and I've been working in cloud computing since well over 8 years at this point. But I've been in the tech industry for even longer than that. I've been working on mainly building and shipping a lot of scalable cloud native computing, data, and AI products to enterprise customers. So, mainly in the B2B business. And yeah, cloud computing, data, and AI are all things that I'm passionate about. So, really looking forward to engaging with you all today. The topic of the discussion is going to be leveraging cloud computing for inclusive data collection and analysis. I do want to make this an interactive session, so I do have a couple of polls that I'd love to maybe get some insights from you as we go along. So let's get right into it. All right, the agenda for today's session is essentially we're going to start about talking about why inclusive data collection is important. So, is there an inclusivity gap in data in the industry in general? In order to close this gap, how can cloud computing help? And then finally, what are some of the best practices that companies or teams can follow? I have a case study that maybe we can take a look at to see what the benefits are of making sure data sets that we include in our businesses are inclusive in today's day and age. Let's get started with a poll here. Let me see if I can push this out. So I understand that many of you are from various types of companies, perhaps industries, and so on and so forth. I'd love to understand, maybe if you could put in chat actually before I put what the first poll out. What are some of the industries? Are you all in the tech industry or are you in different industries? Could maybe some of you respond on the chat and tell me what industry you work in? Okay. Tech, automotive, software, consulting. Awesome. Oh, sweet. Yeah, pretty diverse. This is awesome. Semiconductor, nice. Financial services, awesome. So, yeah, I mean, today in today's day and age, for various reasons, whether it's DEI related, human resources, or marketing and sales related, there's a lot of need for us to get really diverse and inclusive data sets. So let's actually get your responses on this first poll here. I hope you can all see the poll. I just opened it. Once I get your responses here, I'm going to close the poll. Awesome. Cool. I still see some votes coming in. Give this another second and then we can get going. All right. So I think we've received most responses on the poll. The question of the poll is, what's your biggest challenge today when trying to collect and or gather diverse and inclusive data sets, and also analyze that data. So I think most of you stated that finding representative data sources is maybe the biggest challenge, followed by handling multiple data formats efficiently. And then interpreting results is definitely a challenge. And that's definitely something that we've experienced in my company as well. And then addressing that bias is definitely a concern. Hopefully, some of the solutions we'll discuss today in today's workshop will kind of help you address those within your own teams as well. So yeah, let's maybe go back to the slides and we can take a look at yeah. So I've taken a look at a lot of surveys, and there clearly is and inclusivity gap in data sets. So surveys show us that businesses are not able to find representative data sources. And a lot of you here said that that's one of the main challenges. But the bigger challenge that I've heard from a lot of my customers are that handling the data that they get in multiple formats can be maybe an even bigger challenge. So definitely, current state of data collection biases exist. Managing that is kind of key as well. So why do businesses today need diverse and inclusive data sets? I think they need that for several compelling reasons. Accuracy of performance, diverse data sets represent the real world population, leading to more accurate predictions, recommendations, and insights. Whether you're using cloud computing or AI, your data sets really need to be inclusive. So models, we've also seen that models, AI models that are trained on any kind of homogeneous data often perform poorly when applied to underrepresented groups. For broader market research, that's another case, I would say. Products and services developed using inclusive data can serve a wider customer base. Take the U.S. itself. We have a pretty diverse demographic population across the 50 states, and so any kind of products or targeted marketing you might be looking to perform definitely needs that kind of inclusive data. Also, another important thing that maybe HR teams use is reduction of harmful bias. So any data set that is not diverse can perpetuate or amplify existing biases, leading to any kind of discriminatory outcomes in automated systems, maybe even hiring tools for banks. We've heard about, loan approval processes also experiencing some kind of bias. And yeah, not surprisingly, even in healthcare and hospitals and diagnostics, non-diverse data sets can be harmful as well. Also, the benefits, kind of looking at the flip side, there can also be enhanced innovation. So diverse perspectives from, inclusive data sets can help capture a diverse perspective and reveal unidentified patterns of usage, needs, requirements, and therefore drive innovation and creative solutions. So I would say these are at a very high level some of the very important reasons why businesses today need diverse and inclusive data sets. I'd love to understand, maybe if some of you can put in the chat, what are some of the consequences that you have seen personally? We went through some of that and just based on what I was saying. Have you in your businesses seen any kind of real world consequences of unrepresentative data sets in your business? Feel free to put your response in the chat. Anybody? Too many questions, not so far, that's fair. Poor model performance in the case of AI, absolutely. Yeah, these are definitely good responses so far. I haven't received too many for this, but that's correct. Yeah, basically, looks like a lot of you are saying poor model performance in the case of AI. Data collection methods in developing countries not as robust. Absolutely. And therefore, we're going to see how leveraging cloud computing, regardless where you are in the world, could potentially resolve for this exact pain point. Okay, so let's kind of dive into maybe how we could leverage cloud computing for diverse and inclusive data collection. So I do have one more poll actually before. Glad I did not forget. Let's me publish this poll. Okay, I hope you can all see the latest poll. Okay. Okay, awesome. Many cloud computing users already, so this is great. Awesome. Anyone else? For some reason, it's not showing me if there's anyone else yet to respond to the poll. But so far, what I'm seeing on my side is for the question, has your team adopted cloud computing? I'm seeing a 57% or 60% of you say yes, and about 40 something percent say no. So a little more than half of you are already using cloud computing, which is great. All right, let's proceed with that information. So, cloud computing can offer significant advantages over traditional on premise architectures when it comes to collecting and analyzing diverse and inclusive data sets. Um, One of you mentioned that collecting data sets from developing countries is a challenge. So I think cloud computing could potentially resolve exactly one of this pain point for businesses. The accessibility and geographic reach that cloud computing has. You can operate data centers worldwide, and I think most of the public cloud providers today do have data centers worldwide, including in the developing parts of the world, enabling collection from diverse geographic regions and populations that might be underrepresented in more centralized systems. So we definitely don't just have to focus on data sets or data collection from, the US or the EMEA region and so on and so forth. It's definitely more feasible to get data these days from places even in Asia, Africa that are maybe less focused on AI and so on and so forth because of cloud computing. Another reason is there are significantly lower barriers to entry. Sorry, I realized that I hadn't switched slides. Yeah, another benefit to cloud computing is that there's lower barriers to entry. Cloud services require minimal upfront investment. I'm not saying it's cheap, but they do require minimal upfront investment in terms of architecture. You don't have to build your own infrastructure to make this feasible. So cloud can make data collection accessible to researchers or organizations with limited resources who may actually be looking for some kind of a diverse perspective. Other obvious benefits, I mean, many of you are cloud computing users today, more than 50% of you, as I saw from the poll. Dynamic resource allocation. So cloud systems can rapidly help you scale. You can spin up resources based on the volumes of data and the volumes of varied sources. Unlike on-premise infrastructure, where you definitely don't have that flexibility to scale. You're getting perhaps new data sets from new parts of, let's say, the US or somewhere else in the world, but you don't have, the storage capacity or the processing capacity or the compute capacity within your on-premise architecture. You're not going to run into any of those issues if you use the cloud. And then, the cloud can also help support different types of formats or varied data types. For example, cloud excels at managing structured and unstructured and even semi-structured data. In some of my past experiences building some of these data sets that have really varied data, we bring all of the data into a data lake. And from that data lake, we're able to process and compute and so on and so forth. A lot of data lakes offered by AWS or Microsoft Azure these days allow you to bring in any kind of structured, semi-structured, and even unstructured data, capturing the full spectrum of data types and data formats, text, images, audio, video, any other format as well, and bringing it all into a data lake. Moving on, cloud computing also offers significant opportunity for collaboration and integration. So you can seamlessly share data sets across geographic. If you have teams sitting in, let's say, Africa or EMEA, you can share. You can do a lot of cross-organizational collaboration without having the need to specifically build any kind of on-premise data infrastructure there. And then one of the most important things, coming back to the first poll that I asked for all of your responses, was the analytics. So analyzing this diverse data. Cloud platforms offer sophisticated analytics and machine learning and even AI capabilities today that can help you identify and manage bias in data sets. I believe one of the teams at my company has even built something called a bias detection data set using, I think, AWS resources. So, yeah, I think this is definitely something that you can do. The computational resources available in cloud support any kind of intersectional analysis across, multiple demographic factors. So I really think that these are some of the really beneficial aspects and traits of cloud computing that could help you there. Yeah, on this slide, I have some of the tools that can help you with bias detection and mitigation that I've actually used. So you can build bias detection systems on most major cloud platforms. We already spoke about augmentation techniques for any kind of data segments, synthetic data generation to balance data sets, and also any kind of roadmap that you want to implement for any other practical tools and services is definitely feasible and much more attainable with cloud computing. Yeah, this is just some more information on processing multiple types of data. Cloud computing supports parallel processing strategies and so on and so forth, and can also be very interactive when it comes to analyzing heterogeneous data. Okay. Before we let me quickly check the chat to make sure I'm not missing any questions or thoughts. Okay. Looks like there's no messages in chat, but I do have one last poll that I'd love to get your feedback on. Now that we've spoken a little bit about how cloud computing could potentially help, I'd love to understand in terms of, especially those of you who are not fully leveraging cloud computing, what are the barriers preventing your teams from using it? If you see the poll, I would really appreciate if you could vote there. Okay, legacy system integration issues, budget constraints, that's kind of expected. It's almost evenly spread out at this point. Let's see where this goes. Okay. Yeah, I would say the poll results from you are fairly evenly spread out. It seems like, technical expertise gaps are definitely a concern for your teams in terms of adopting cloud solutions. Some of you are saying integrating with legacy systems, which is always kind of a big deal when it comes to, businesses going from on-premise systems to the cloud. I have a lot of experience with this. And then, of course, some of you are even saying there's budget constraints, which is also 100% understandable. So yeah, I mean that's really good information. So thank you so much for sharing what some of your teams are experiencing. I mean, while the cloud is incredibly helpful in terms of you know uh, analyzing and collecting diverse data sets, there definitely are some pitfalls, I would say, as well, right? High cost management. Exactly. Some of you said budget issues. So, cost management issues, the cloud can have some hidden expenses from data transfer fees, API calls, storage requirements, and so on and so forth. There can, on rare occasions, also be data security and privacy concerns. So that's also something, depending on the type of business or team that you work for, there could be privacy concerns. Although most public cloud providers these days, AWS, GCP, Azure, are pretty good about making sure that your data is always encrypted and so on and so forth. I know we only have a couple of minutes left. So moving on from the pitfalls, let's talk about a specific case study, and I'll try to make this quick. One of our customers, they're a company called Healthier Horizons Fitness. They're a fitness brand offering both digital and in person services. They struggled with stagnant growth and poor retention rates despite significant marketing investments. Their challenge was their data collection methods. They only captured limited demographic information. And what I mean by this is customer age, gender, location. And so they were not able to accomplish diverse information across all customer types to understand basic fitness goals. So this resulted in some generic marketing, and the generic marketing therefore failed to resonate with diverse potential customers. And it definitely did not address any undeserved demographics like older adults, for example, or people with disabilities, and also importantly, cultural minorities. So what did they do? They actually, started using GCP as their cloud provider, and we actually noticed that they were able to work with GCP to kind of really get a lot of different kinds of data sets into an unstructured data lake, based on which they were able to expand their demographic data. They started to collect some contextual collections, so gathered information on cultural factors across the world, influencing some parts of the world. That really reflected their fitness preferences, dietary restrictions, and other important cultural aspects. They were also able to gather some profiles on accessibility requirements. So, any needs for people with accessibility requirements as well. And so, they were able to do all of this pretty successfully using the cloud within a year after adopting their cloud. They did actually see some marketing improvements, which were, more culturally relevant campaigns, multilingual content, and representative imagery. So yeah, this really helped their business. They were able to expand their market reach by 34%, increasing customer acquisition from previously underrepresented groups. And their overall revenue actually increased by 23% within 12 months of implementation. So the key takeaways from this are that, the inclusive data collection provided more actionable insights that the standard demographic missed. Transparent data practices built were with hesitant customer segments, and overall the company's reputation improved as it became known for inclusive practices, mainly in marketing and sales, but even other areas as well. So this was really cool. So on this last slide here, kind of similar to the case study that I just went over for the fitness company we spoke about, I also have some key metrics that perhaps many of you could potentially use as you start to adopt the need for more inclusive data sets and data collection and analysis. So, try to understand whether you are, you know, getting at a lot of demographic coverage, so percentage of relevant population segments that are represented in your data sets. Make sure that you are targeting a fairly complete ratio, so proportion of complete records across different demographic groups, and also importantly, any kind of data source diversity. So what are the numbers and the variety of your different data origins? What are they looking at? And yeah, I would, in the next slide, I do have my information. Feel free to reach out if you'd like to chat about this topic. And if you do especially adopt any of the public cloud providers, I am really curious to understand how the ability to bring in these different data sources into a data lake or whatever storage option they provide, and then from there go on to analyze the data. How useful is it within your company or your team? Um, I'd love to hear from you. So this is actually my email and LinkedIn information. Hope you can see it. And I've really enjoyed sharing this information with you. Feel free to get in touch with me. And yeah, that's pretty much what I had for today. Thank you so much for attending this session. Really appreciate all of your time.